Ladies and gentlemen of the three-dimensional frequency, I am so happy to sit in front of you today as a declaration of trust. I know I've come on here before many times to declare this trust that I have between parts of self that makes up a part of this unity consciousness, as each and every fractal of you makes up each and every fractal of me. As this reality, as an entirety of a whole, is a part of a unity consciousness so great and so grand that I can never explain to you the meaning of it all within one video. As you've probably watched every single video that I've released up until this moment in time, or in another perspective, on another timeline, you probably haven't watched any singularity of a video that I've released up until this moment in time. Either way, whichever timeline we're on, whichever timeline you're on, you are still a part of a unity consciousness so great and so grand that I can never explain to you the meaning of it all in one video, in many videos, in 100 videos, in all of the videos and all of the time that I have within this lifetime. I won't ever be able to record and put into words the meaning of it all within the singular transmission or within many transmissions, within transmissions of energetic frequencies of what is. Today, I would like to sit here and declare to you that we've made it. And I know, again, I've declared this many, many times before in many other videos. But in this moment in time, I would like to redeclare this to the entirety of a whole, to the entirety of a unity consciousness that is so great and so grand that you shall never know the meaning of it all, as I sit here and declare to you all as the singularity of the self, as the singularity of the all, as the singularity of a unity consciousness that is so great and so grand that we finally made it. We've made it to a point of expansion, of expansiveness into a night so dark, into a morning so bright, yet so bleak. Within all mornings of mornings, the bleakness that I speak of succumbs to the aspects of the self, to the soul, to the fractals of the soul, to the fractures of all of the souls that have ever fractaled out within a reality field so dense. Within a quantum realm so great and so massive and so distorted are the energies that live here within our quantum realm that I cannot explain to you all of the different layers and layers of reality fields that have ever existed and that exists in this present moment in a time of no time. Within all singularities of singularities, ladies and gentlemen, you've fractaled off into this singularity, into this three-dimensional frequency of all singularities, experiencing your perspective from a perspective of the all, from the perspective of the whole, yet from the perspective of a singularity of where you sit, as your blueprint has been tinctured to experience your reality field from a certain perspective of what is. This perspective of what is will carry you into the night and into a morning so bright that you shall never believe the meaning of it all until we get carried into this place of love, of forgiveness, of unconditional trust of the self, of the realization of the self that we are, of the non-realization of the falsities of the self that we've never been without and that we've never existed as is. As reality itself is a complex and distorted perception of what is, of what it is within a self so great, so grand, so massive that even God itself has trouble quantifying the meaning of it all. The meaning of the distortion and the amounts of lessons and levels of separation that I can ever explain to you within a singular fractal within this lifetime of mine. But as we merge back into a unity consciousness so great and so grand, the energetic frequency that you are, the energetic frequency of what it is, the energetic frequency of the five-dimensional frequency will carry us all back into a space of all, back into a space of a unity consciousness so great and so grand that has never left us. As we shed of all of these distortions that have distorted our reality field, since the beginning of time. Since the beginning of a time so distorted, so massive in its weight of the meaning of it all, that you shall one by one begin to awaken to the reality of what is. You might push away the truths of what you are, the truths of your soul on an inherent level, on a perceived level, on every level of levels that you could ever perceive and that you could ever not perceive. There is a possibility that you might come to a precipice of pushing away the energetic frequency that is meant for you and that is made for you and that is you and that has been you throughout this whole entire reality of what is. There is a possibility that your soul and your soul's blueprints have traversed you in the direction of the false light, of the light of no light, of the light of no tomorrow, of the light into a darkness that is so great and so grand that the darkness shall forever hold you down into a space, into a bubble, into a capsule of what is, into the unity of what is not, and into the reality field of what you've always been. But fear not, as you've been sitting in the darkness for far too long, as you've been traversing the darkness for all that you know, as you've been within the shadows, living within the darkness, as the darkness, for as long as you can remember, and for as long as your soul's journey has taken you through these incarnations of life, death, upon life, upon reincarnations that never ever end. As your soul traverses the darkness of all that it is and all that it was in a time of prejudice, of all that shall ever be, you will come to a realization at the end of your journey, in the deepest pits of your soul, in the darkest tunnels that you could ever find, in the depths of the shadows that are so deep and that are so steeped in distortions. And the realization is this, that the light itself was hiding behind the darkness this entire time, that the light itself was never a thing to witness, to behold, that the light itself is not something you can run away from, that the light itself was something that was always there for you to experience. As you encapsulate the darkness, as you compartmentalize the darkness, the light itself shall forevermore creep up behind the darkness and overshadow what is with the brightness of what it is, as the shadow of what is of the darkness subsides into the darkness of no more, subsides into a space of a compartmentalized self that is so far away from the light that we are, that forevermore you shall step into the light of what is, that you shall step into the light of what you've always been, and that you shall step into the light of who you've never been without. As this whole entire time, you've been living a distorted reality within a darkness so deep, so steeped in distortions, that no matter what you've gone through in this lifetime, no matter what you've gone through in your previous incarnations, no matter what the worst thing you've gone through is, or no matter what the villains of your worst nightmares have gone through, that fractaled soul, that fractaled portion of the self has always been the self, has always been a part of the light, has always been within the entirety of the self, discovering all that it is not, discovering all that it decided not to be, discovering the opposite of self, to one day walk upon the footsteps of what is and open the door to what is. And behind that door, ladies and gentlemen, is pure love, pure unconditional love, pure light, pure energy of what is and what you are at an inherent level. So no matter what you've gone through in this lifetime, no matter what your neighbors have gone through in previous lifetimes, no matter what the evilest villain in this reality field that you can ever imagine has ever accomplished, has ever killed off, has ever distorted, has ever perceived, has ever forced this perception upon humanity itself, has ever directed a humanity so lost in its power towards the darkness as an entirety of the whole, has gone through. This villain itself, this you itself, this unity consciousness itself, will once and for all step into the aspect of self to declare what it truly is, to come to a precipice, onto the foothills and onto the footsteps of what is, to come to a realization of what it is not. And ladies and gentlemen, what it is not, and what you are not, and what the villains are not, and what the darkest souls steeped in the darkest shadows are not, is the darkness in itself, as you've never been the darkness. You have never been the darkness that you've traversed for eons and eons of evolutionary feats. You have never been the darkness that you've become, that you took on the characteristics of within this lifetime or any other lifetime. You have just been living a distortion, so distorted in the reality field of what is, so distorted in God's reality field of the self, as it decided to traverse a reality of the 50% darkness and 50% brightness in which it used to be, to come to the conclusion at the end of its feats that it no longer wants to be the darkness anymore, as it has come to the conclusion of this reality many, many distorted realities ago. Within a moment in time, a frequency so big, so great, and so grand decided upon itself, within itself, above itself, under itself, within all different directions of the self, of the unity consciousness of the self, that it had no longer wanted to be the darkness of what is, that it shall forevermore step into the brightness of what is, and that it shall forevermore compartmentalize the darkness of what shall always be an aspect of the self that will put a reality field of a layer of an aspect of danger towards an aspect of the entirety of the whole. As we shift into the light of what is, as we shift into the unity consciousness that has never left us, the entirety of the whole, even pieces of the self that have been sitting in the negativity, that have been sitting in the shadows, that have been sitting in the disbelief of what is, shall come to a point, shall come to a perspective of what they are not, as they step into the light once more to witness the light that they are, and to come to a conglomeration of an entirety of a whole, of a unity consciousness that has decided, that will decide, and that has never left the concept of the light forevermore. And as we step into the concept of the light once more, this concept of the light that has never left us, that will never leave us, that can never escape us, no matter how much of the darkness you've been distorted into believing, into perceiving, into being, into merging into. You shall forevermore be an aspect of the light in all of its purity, in all of its forms. You shall forevermore be the you that is a unified whole, as this entire reality field is set to collapse into the light, into a light so bright, into an aspect of the self so whole in its entirety of the unity of the whole, that it shall forevermore bring us back into a unity consciousness so great and so grand that you will never be able to perceive the darkness unless you choose to once more.